If you like to make your NFL games a little bit more interesting, you've come to the right place. It's the Even Money Podcast with Ross Tucker and Steve Fezzik.
Yeah, Vegas, baby, Vegas. It is the Even Money Betting Podcast. We are presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. I'm fired up because we got a great show for you today. We're all over the place. We're going to talk, I forgot because it was the week after the draft, I forgot to talk to Steve last week about the Kentucky Derby, but I'll ask him about it today. I know what he's going to say. Just bet on horses for fun. It's not good to make money, but I'll still ask him at least a question about that today because we still got the Preakness and Belmont coming up. Maybe we'll get my guy Randy Moss, no, not that one, the other one, on the show over the next couple weeks. We also have this NFL schedule being released next week. Now, it's being released next Wednesday night. So what that means is we should have Michael North from the NFL on Thursday's Ross Tucker Football Podcast next week. That is always a must-listen-to episode because I grill him on some of the things that happen in the schedule. People really enjoy that. It also means we may get Warren Sharp on this show next week. We may get Warren Sharp on a different show. Regardless, we are going to preview the NFL schedule release and what you need to be looking for. And actually, Steve will talk today about how we kind of already know a lot of the strength of schedule stuff. And then it's been wild. NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, these game sevens in the NHL. I mean, it's been comeback city. Last night in hoops, are you kidding me? The Nuggets and the Knicks, that was wild. So, got an awesome show for you. You guys know this is, as far as I know, the best NFL betting podcast out there. If there's one you think is better, let me know. I want to listen to it or watch it. YouTube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. I think people like the dichotomy, but they really like Steve, right? So check out Steve Fezzik on social media at Fezzik Sports and only at Fezzik Sports, by the way, except no imposters. And you can check me out at Ross Tucker NFL or us out at Ross Tucker Pod. A lot to get to, Steve. I want to start, though, because it's top of mind. I want to start with the Kentucky Derby. I watched it. I think everybody watches it. It's fun to watch. It was a muddy race. Because it was the weekend after the draft, I forgot to ask you about it last week. I feel like a dummy. That's my bad, by the way, for all of you that like to bet on horse racing. You like to bet on, the Triple Crown. I should have at least had Steve tell you this last week, but I'm telling you he's going to tell you to not do it. So anyway, Steve, explain to them pari-mutuel betting and why you despise horse racing.
Because I don't get to lock in my price. So in the NFL, when I play plus 3.5 and a line closes 2.5, I'm locked in on plus 3.5. My biggest problem with the horse racing is not only with the pari-mutuel is the house holding around 18%, but I don't even know what my odds are going to be when I place my wagers. So I can think I'm getting 10-1 on a horse, but if it closes 8-1, that's what I wind up receiving. So I don't do it, but I want to put out an apology. There's one guy out there named Mike Somich. He's at Vegas Sports and Information Network. And Mike has been a horse guy, and I've kind of poo-pooed it, And Ross, he nailed it. He got the winner, the second place, the third place, and the fourth place. I think it paid 1,600 to 1. If you played, if you played his recommendation. So Sammelbaum, Mike Somich, apologies. You nailed it.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. 1,600 to 1?
Don't quote me on it. It's something like that. It's just an incredible job by him. Yes.
Wait, so hold on a second, Steve. So I'm aware of you bet win, play, show, a trifecta, all those things. What is betting the first 4 in a row?
I think it's the superfecta. It's
Got
just unbelievable.
Because I never heard of that one before. That's a new one for me. That's incredible. So, Steve, just looking at it, people love betting on horse racing. People bet a ton on horse racing. There's an 18% hold to go along with the parimutuel. The people that take horse racing bets, they must be killing it.
Oh, 100%. So, well, remember, it's the track that takes the horse racing bets. But that's like booking any sport at like minus 140, right? And upwards. And so, I mean, it's more than that. So now the horse racing people would argue, well, yeah, but if you bet into, longer shots and the like, that you can still overcome the VIG. The truth is, the people I know that make a living do it with 10% rebates that they're getting back from, the various entities that they're wagering at.
Wow. That is wild. That is awesome. That's good stuff. Congrats to Mike. That's amazing to get the first 4 in a row. All right. We're going to do a schedule release preview next week, Steve, right? Because we usually record the show and release it Tuesday mornings. They're going to announce the schedule Wednesday night. So next week, we're going to talk, might even ask Warren if he can come on the show, but we're going to talk, because Warren does such a great job of talking about rest disparity and all the things that he cares about. I think we usually get him on either the weekend, or the week of the release, or the week after the release, maybe a couple weeks after the release. I'll have to reach out to Warren. Let me write that down in my notes right now to get Warren Sharp on the show. But he released it this week, Steve. We could have done this a couple weeks ago. But we already know who has the easiest and hardest schedules. And I think people don't realize that or lose sight of that. We're going to have all these people next week. They have an easy schedule. They have a hard schedule, blah, blah, blah. But number one, we already know what their schedule is, except for the times and the days. And secondly, Steve, even though we already know, I still see most people calculating it the wrong way. That they calculate it by the team's win-loss record last year.
Yeah, what do we care that New England lost so many games last year? This year, New England's supposed to win 8 games, right? So you got to value them as being almost a 500 team if they're on your schedule.
Right. So basically, we're betting it based on the projected season win totals right now.
Yes, exactly right.
Why don't some people get that? I guess because the sports betting is, it's still relatively new, or it's just easier to calculate last year's records as opposed to, calculating the season win totals for this year?
Yeah, it's the ease is certainly there. One time, I'm not going to mention his name, we had a long-time Vegas handicapper, and he said he didn't like the subjectivity of using this year's numbers on season wins versus the certainty of last year. And I was like the Undertaker. I just wanted to choke slam him. I was so angry. Like, how could someone be so like unable to process basic, obvious math?
So there's a lot of interesting things there, though. I haven't dove into it that much, Steve. But what I found fascinating, just skimming through all of the different stuff that Warren put out there, and I didn't read it all yet, but there are teams, like bad teams from last year, that have much tougher schedules than you would think, and vice versa. Now, part of it's because the Niners had a bad year last year, but I think I saw the Niners have the easiest schedule, but then there's other teams. I think you were texting me one that has a tough one.
Yeah, the poor New York Giants, last place team, they get stuck with the AFC West, the NFC North. Their division is obviously extremely difficult because they don't get to play themselves. And then, they get the 3 last place teams, but 2 of the 3 last place teams, the Niners and New England. So that's the Niners are projected to be a playoff team, New England a 500 team. It's going to be a long year for the New York Giants.
So is it fair to say that's one of the toughest schedules you've ever seen for a last place team?
I think it is the toughest I've ever seen.
Wow. Man, not good timing for those guys trying to save their jobs.
Not at all.
So, okay. So should we be since DraftKings has the season win totals up, Steve, should we have been looking at, like, when you've been, like, we've just been kind of going through and saying the teams we like, the team, I like the over there. New England 8.5. That seems like a little rich. I like the under. We haven't really been taking into account their strength of schedule. I mean, like, I haven't. I've just been going there, based on what my perception of the team without actually looking at Warren's data and what the strength of, like, I think I said under for the Giants anyway, because I expect Jackson Dart to play the second half of the year. But now I would really be under on the Giants.
Yeah, spot on. So, and remember, these strength of schedules, it's not like they're a college schedule where you're playing like a group of juggernauts. I mean, the average win total for most teams, it's going to be close to 8.5 on their opponents. So, I mean, this is a secondary consideration for most teams unless you have one of the most difficult or one of the most easiest schedules.
Okay, let's start with some of these playoff teams, playoff leagues, because it's been fun, man. I mean, playoff hockey, overtime hockey is ridiculous. I still can't get over those 2 comebacks last night. Like, I mean, I don't know. Do you think those were comebacks or collapses, Steve?
Comebacks. And I think that playoff hockey has always been great to play unders, especially games 6 and 7. And I think that that's dead, Ross. And here's why. The teams, the analytics departments have taken over and they realize, you know what? If you're down 2 goals, you got to make it happen. You got to pull your goalie with 4 minutes left. You got to go ahead and give your team the best chance to come from behind. You can't just wait for the final 90 seconds. And teams are doing it more and more often and early. And that's creating goals in both directions. Obviously, open net goals, and 5-4 turns into 7-4. But the flip side can happen. You're down 3-1 and you go for it, and it gives you a better chance to get that miracle comeback. And we've seen it multiple times.
Interesting. Okay. That's definitely something. What about in the NBA? I was actually asking about the NBA, whether those were comebacks or collapses last night, with the Thunder losing to the Nuggets and the Celtics. 45 missed three-pointers, Steve. I've never seen that in my life. I'm like amazed. And listen, I was a pretty good high school basketball player, but I don't like watch NBA all year. I kind of get into it in the playoffs. The amount of times that these guys settle for contested threes is like mind-boggling to me. My high school coach would be going crazy how often they just settle for like a contested tough three.
Well, you still make that contested tough three 30% of the time. So, it's better than shooting. It's the same as shooting a 45% 18-foot two. Maybe it isn't as good when you're the big favorite. Hey, listen, I wouldn't worry if I'm the Celtics. You go 15 for 60 from 3, the Knicks go ahead and hit 46% of the 3-point shots. I think the Celtics minus 340 in the series bet is outstanding, and I would certainly endorse it.
They're still minus 340 after being down a game?
Bold prediction, they're going to win the next 4. Detroit outplayed the Knicks completely in that series. So the Knicks are not live to beat Boston. That's just a one-off aberration from 3-point shooting from game 1.
All right, so have you guys tried Monarch Money yet? And if the answer is no, why not? You can get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Just make sure you use code EVEN at monarchmoney.com in your browser to get half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code EVEN. So many of your email questions, so many things that Steve talked about are building your bankroll. This is another way to build your bankroll. Get a clear financial picture of what you're spending money on, what you shouldn't be. There's a reason why it was named Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025. Again, use that code EVEN at monarchmoney.com to get half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com, code EVEN. All right, we had some rookie mini camps last weekend. We have more rookie mini camps next weekend. You know what you should do during those rookie mini camps? Drink vodka. Yeah, from Smirnoff. They know there's no I in football. Football is a we thing. Smirnoff is the perfect vodka for crafting delicious cocktails, easy to make and versatile for any and all fans over 21 or the rookies. They're almost all over 21. Invite them to your house after minicamp. There's a reason Smirnoff's the world's #1 vodka and an official vodka partner of the NFL. Grab a bottle of Smirnoff at your local retailer and head to Smirnoff.com to find recipes of delicious cocktails perfect for game day or for this weekend. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff #21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age. Wow. Okay. It was wild though for them to come back like that. What about the Thunder and the Nuggets? The Thunder, I don't know what their deal is. I still feel like I kind of feel like I'll believe that they can win the whole thing when they actually do it. It just seems like maybe they're not playoff ready, but maybe you'll disagree.
Well, I'm certainly concerned because they're the one team that actually outshot their opponent and somehow donked off game one. And that's a major concern. I can't get past the fact, though, that they were so dominant. A team that wins as many games as the Thunder and has that point differential, those teams make the NBA Finals. Again, concerning about game one, but still, I would endorse Oklahoma City minus 290 on the series price. I know I'm playing lots of chalk. You can parlay these together at DraftKings. Oklahoma City's going to win the series.
Okay. And then what about the other series?
I would endorse Cleveland minus 205. That's the one I'm the most worried about because of the Garland injury, of course. But you look at the three-point shooting again. Indiana hits 19 of 36. Cleveland is 9 for 38. So that's like a 30-point swing based upon three-point shooting variance. And Indy loses by 9. If you normalize it, and they both had made the same percentage, then Cleveland would have won by 21. Cleveland's going to win the series, and they're cheap now at minus 205.
Got it. Okay, so you still like all of the chalk. What about the last series?
Lean to Minnesota, but I want to see some data. By the way, put me down as an official play. I'm going to play a 3-team parlay. I'm going to do Boston, Oklahoma City, and Cleveland all to win the series. That'll pay a handsome plus price, despite all three being big favorites.
Wow. And I think it's interesting that they're all still favored by that much after there's only a 7-game series. They already lost one.
Yeah, but by the way, one thing that just gets me is they say, their opponent stole home field advantage. Well, no, their opponent doesn't have home field advantage yet. Both teams still have 3 home games. Their opponents are up 1-0. That's their advantage. There is no home field advantage. Now, what they're saying is that even when Oklahoma City wins game 2, I get it, then their opponent will have home field edge, but then the series is going to be 1-1. I'd be shocked if all 3 of the favorites didn't win game 2 outright, and then you're going to see these series prices go right back up, to minus 450 and minus 500 on these teams.
So you still think Oklahoma City's going to win the whole thing?
Someone has to win the whole thing. Everyone's looking vulnerable. Yes, Oklahoma City, I do think, should be the favorite.
Got it. So the big thing here is, do you know off the top of your head? You probably don't, Steve, but how much of a favorite Boston, OKC, and Cleveland were before game 1? Like, how much did it come down as a result of them losing those games? What I'm curious about.
Yeah, so Boston was like minus 800, Oklahoma City the same, and Cleveland, I believe, minus 430. So you can
so if you still really believe in those teams, it feels like we're getting a lot of value.
Exactly. So basically, you're laying less than half the juice. than what you were having to lay before game one. So there's been an enormous adjustment for just one game of action and games, frankly, that were close across the board.
I just got an email yesterday to ross@rosstucker.com from Zach Smith, who's a listener in Australia. He went to Disney World and he was so excited to try Labatt Blue. He sent me a picture from Disney World with his drinking a Labatt Blue. That is what I'm talking about. That is awesome. I hope, Zach, you did the buy beer, get gear thing by going to rewards.labattusa.com to sign up. They have some awesome stuff there that you can get just for buying Labatt. Got it. Okay. And then what about baseball? Give me an update on your... So the takeaways are NHL, you got to stop betting under on game 6s and 7 because they're pulling the goalies earlier. For NBA, we're still going with the favorites, and you have an official play on the parlay of the Celtics, the Thunder, and the Cavs. I like it. What about, and next week we're all over the NFL schedule release. What about MLB, Steve? Before we get to maybe an email question.
So NHL, we're adjusting to the strategy change. NBA, we're not overreacting to one game of action. In the MLB, we are severely reacting to a bunch of baseball teams. And Ross, there's no other way to say it, they suck. They can't play a lick. And if you look at the run differential of these teams, 5 of the 6 teams I'm going to mention have been outscored by over 50 runs already this year. It turns out if you get outscored by 1 run per game, you're a 65-win team. I don't think any of these teams are going to be able to achieve that. They're going to do way worse than getting outscored than by just 1 run. Because of that, I'm going under on all these horrendous teams. Season wins, Colorado under 45.5, Angels under 69.5, Miami under 61.5, Pittsburgh under 66.5, and the Baltimore Orioles, that are a shell of their team last year, under 77.5. One bonus pick, the Chicago White Sox. Their run differential isn't bad, but their record is horrendous, and I just see them getting worse and worse. The Chi Sox under 51.5.
So, Steve, isn't it? But baseball is such a long season, and things balance itself out. Don't you think? So at least a couple of those teams, in my mind, are going to go over. But your thought is they're so bad that you'll take your chances with all. Like 1 or 2 of them is going to get better during the year. They're going to go on a run. That's just the way baseball is, and they're going to hit the over. But if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you go under on 6 of them, you're pretty confident at least 4 of them are going to stay under.
That is the mathematically correct answer. However, Ross, I'm going to say you're going to go 6-0, and here's why. Because things aren't going to balance themselves out. Because guess what's going to happen come the trade deadline? These teams are going to be jettisoning all of their players, the Baltimores and the Pittsburghs of the world, and they're going to be looking to the future knowing it's a lost year. So all of these teams are going to get worse because of what's going to happen come post-All-Star break.
That is a fantastic point. Let's get to an email. We love it. Remember, if you take advantage of any of the sponsors you hear on the show, like Monarch Money or whatever, if you get somebody a gift from myfrontpagestory.com, the best Mother's Day gift ever, send that to me, ross@rosstucker.com, and you get a chance to ask Steve a question on the show, like Carlos Zaguire. He said, "Hey, Ross, big time, first time sending an email, big fan, been listening to you forever. Question for Steve on even money. Why do I always seem to do better betting later in the season?" This was towards the end of the season. "I've been killing it the last few weeks, thanks in no small part to you fine gentlemen, but earlier in the season I struggled. Is it because we just don't know what these teams will look like at the beginning of the season? We have a better sense of these teams as the season wears on? This seems obvious, but if it is, why don't we wait until mid-season to start betting? Thanks, man. Keep up the good work. Sincerely, Carlos." It's Y. I never seen YZ like Steve Eiserman. Zaguire. Aguirre. So his thing is he's always better second half of the year than he is first half of the year. I think we were as well this year, Steve. Why don't we wait until mid-season when we feel like we know more about these teams? Interesting.
Yeah, because the problem is everyone knows more about these teams. And so the power ratings, almost everyone's power ratings are the same on all these teams come December. But early in the year, we really aren't sure who's good, who's not good. I'll use an example in terms of baseball. Baltimore was supposed to be an above 500 team. Well, that power rating was just completely wrong in baseball. In Baltimore, they're a bad team. And because of that, if you can jump in and identify a team that's completely misaligned early in the year, you're going to find teams whose power ratings are way off, and that's just never going to be the case late in the year.
I do feel like we got off to a bad start, right? I remember we were both losing, like we were both in the red, and then we battled back throughout the course of the year to get back in black by the end.
Oh, and teasers are better late in the year because ideally you like nothing better when the game's lined perfectly and you're getting an extra 6 points, and then the teaser's win rate goes up.
Travis Podvoric said, "What happened to all the line movement on Sunday mornings? I used to look forward to seeing some of my closing line value, but this year it seems to be down a lot. Are the syndicates and sharps just getting down their money earlier in the week compared to normal?" Travis Podvorak, sounds like podcast, he feels like he didn't get as much closing line value and that there wasn't as much Sunday movement this past season as there usually is.
Because all the pros know if they wait, they're going to get compromised numbers. So it's a race to get to the market. My buddy, the Hitman's a great example. All year long, if a line in the past that was 3.5 all week long, and then it moved to 3 on Sunday, well, it moves to 3 on Wednesday now. And so these line moves just happen faster and faster and faster.
Got it. Okay, so that's the deal. Well, because I was going to say, Steve, we still see a lot of line movement from when we do our show. From when we do our show, I would say 85% of the time, maybe it goes in our direction. We end up getting value. I don't know how much of that's this show or people that listen or watch it, but we get a lot of value. How about next week? Speaking of value, with the schedule release preview, you are not going to want to miss that. He's at Fezzik Sports. I'm at Ross Tucker NFL. Good luck, everybody. Hope you guys win some money this week.
Thanks for tuning in to Even Money. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.